Hey neighbors, the handyman here with Initiative Coffee Company, the Bill Allan with Bill Allan World and the Bill Allan. There's no pants in space. It's time to rise and roll.
Rise and roll! Wow. All right, welcome to Rise and Roll. Today, Brian, we were going to think that this was going to be an easy show.
Like
heaven. Just a cakewalk. We were like, you know what? We've got like 2 topics, but guess what? There are things going on, and people need our insightfulness, our wisdom. We're like...
It's terrifying.
We're like WebDM. We're like Jim and Pruitt, except fatter and more awesome.
Sure.
I'm just going to throw that gauntlet on the table.
I'm
looking
Jim
at you.
Pruitt at WebDM.
Jim and Pruitt.
It's fine.
We're looking at you.
We could use
someday.
the attention.
All right, so thank you for joining us. Hey, Evan. How's it going? Hey, Danny.
It's Bobby the intern.
If you're tuning in on the live stream right now, we have a lot going on. Some very serious table topics, hashtag table topics, and also some fun things that we're going to be doing, some activities.
That's a lot.
Brian, let's get started with a couple of the kind of current events going on over at Kickstarter.
Okay.
So one of them is Chicago by Night. So Dave, if you want to cut over to my laptop screen. So what we have here is the 5th edition Vampire V5, Brian. Just came out recently. It's been in development for a while.
Yeah.
At Gen Con 50
for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean they've been play testing it like
months.
Consistently for over a year. And I had the opportunity to interview Jason Carl and talk to him about it like at Gen Con 50. And then all that last year, and then even going up into the release, they were doing play tests and revisions and updates and a lot of web content, actually.
Really?
Yeah, so they partnered with the gentleman, the gentleman GM, the gentleman game master, the gentleman DM. I don't know. He's like a British guy who has a YouTube channel, and he does it. I like to say in character, but like his accent is just that. So anyway,
it's just who he is.
Let's fast forward out of my blathering, Brian, and take a look here.
So if you're interested in Vampire 5e, I know Geek and Sundry is running a game with B. Dave Walters, and Jason Carl's actually running that game.
Yes, yeah, and that's been wildly successful. But this is an interesting little ditty called Chicago by Night for Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. Help create a beautiful Chicago by Night tabletop RPG hardcover sourcebook for Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. Now, Brian, let's watch the video and then let's discuss why I like and dislike this.
Ah, little neonate. I see you want information on the Camarille's North American crown jewel, the city of Chicago. Long Aventru Bastion, the windy city of tonight, is held aloft as the pinnacle of what it is to be a modern Camarilla domain. Yet, it is not without its agitators. Anarchs plot the fall of this city as they have done in decades past. Knights who consider themselves beyond the Ivory Tower's grip would burn down this city, assassinate its prince, and leave nothing but ruin. The Camarilla itself, as prone to infighting and hierarchical brinkmanship as ever before, at the same time as the prince issues orders for the discreet hunt and elimination of all the city's suspected foes within and beyond its borders. Chicago is a diamond of a domain, but diamonds rarely come without a cost in blood. In Chicago, that blood fills the cracks in every road and every building. Chicago by Night is a sourcebook for Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition, published by Onyx Path, approved by White Wolf Entertainment. It contains over 40 fully detailed kindred for inclusion in your chronicles, the history of Vampire Chicago, systems for building cities and coteries for your games, chronicle hooks, and a full story you can run straight from the book, lore sheets for added character backgrounds, and, most excitingly of all, Clan La Sombra is made playable for the first time in this edition. By backing this book on Kickstarter, you help fund a deluxe version of Chicago by Night and potentially unlock sourcebooks that expand the setting of Vampire the Masquerade. You also gain access to the book text prior to any non-backers as we preview chapters throughout the Kickstarter's duration. Thank you, and enjoy the Kickstarter.
Time to come out to the wide shot.
All right, Bill. So you have feelings.
Brian, I have feelings. So, for one, I'm a huge vampire fan.
Sure.
For those of you who don't believe me, let me just show you how huge I am. This is, fans of art will know. Can you see this, Dave? This is,
Bring it down.
bring it down. To there, to where?
And bring it over in front of you.
God damn it, Carafa. In front of me?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So this is one of the original art pieces for Vampire.
Tilt it forward.
God, Carafa, I'm gonna stab you.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. And it's signed by Tim Bradstreet, the artist who did the art. And I was a huge fan of this game when it came out. So while I, have always enjoyed D&D and other role-playing games, Vampire and all the other White Wolf games kind of took over my gaming group for the better part of the 90s, Brian. From like 93 to even into the early 2000s, it was kind of the thing.
So like late second edition, mid third edition.
Well, actually, we started playing the first edition because my friend Steve came home from college from Kansas City with the books and taught everybody. And then it was like viral, right? Everybody had to play it.
Yeah, the only familiarity I have with any of the One World by Night stuff is
Werewolf.
LARPing through werewolves.
Yeah.
So
my feelings are I'm elated that Vampire has come out with a new edition.
Sure.
I'm elated that
there's
there's a
life in the
resurgence
series,
in it. Sure, exactly. What I'm confused about / unsure about is why is Chicago by Night being put out by Onyx Path Publishing instead of by White Wolf directly? Question. And maybe this will be answered in the FAQ. Postscript, why is this Kickstarter by Richard Thomas
instead of Publishing.
Onyx Path?
That's fair.
So Richard Thomas, I'm going to read the bio about the creator. In 1986, I became the art director of White Wolf magazine, responsible for the visuals that are such an integral part of our White Wolf books. Years later, oversight of the writing and game design was added when I became creative director. I helped to evolve White Wolf into the digital age of publishing, and now am running Onyx Path Publishing to bring tabletop RPGs, our licensed White Wolf games as well as our own, into this new era. Okay, so Richard Thomas, James Bell, and Matthew Dawkins from Onyx Path, the Onyx Path. Sure. And so I get it, I guess, that their company basically licensed the material to produce content for White Wolf's product line. And in this case, okay, but still, why the Kickstarter? Like, so from a gaming design and publishing standpoint, I don't know the business end, but just as a consumer, like, wouldn't I just wait until this came out in the stores and buy it or buy it online? Like, why is it being Kickstarted?
I think the thing that you're forgetting is there are a lot of large companies that are kickstarting games. That
yes, tell me more about that. Explain to my brain why.
Because it makes sense from a corporate standpoint, right?
Okay.
Like, if you can offset the cost of production by essentially pre-selling copies of it to cover the cost of producing the material, more power to you.
And I get that from an indie. To me, Kickstarter has always been about like indie,
right? And I think it goes against like the spirit of Kickstarter, but at the same point, Kickstarter gets to decide what projects they approve.
Well, and they're getting a cut of this now.
Well, they're getting a cut, yeah. I mean,
so whatever that is.
Like, I agree with you that like established game, but here's the thing: like the Onyx Path Publishing is not a Wizards of the Coast, right? They're not selling. They're not on bestseller lists. They're not selling that kind of units. They don't have Hasbro pockets. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what their operating cost is. So maybe they are maybe they are legitimately, this is the only way they can afford to publish this content.
Right. Now, I remember, and this might not be accurate, full disclosure, people, because this is many years ago, but I remember some of the vampire books coming out in the like mid to late 90s that were what I would call beyond the normal rating. You know what I mean? Beyond just mature. Like they were like R/X, borderline disturbing.
That was common throughout most of tabletop games.
And they would be separately
like
published.
D&D had those same like Carnal Guide and like Book of Exotic Fantasy.
And I understand why, like, you know, the main mother company would have a separate subsidiary company to kind of handle that. And I don't remember what that company was. Maybe it was like Blackhand Games or something. But, you know, basically, but it seems like Onyx Path is doing the whole thing, right? Sure. And with White Wolf's licensing and blessing. So cool. So I guess, what if I was an indie company and I wanted to come out with a city and a source book for Vampire? Could I pay White Wolf the dues to do that, and then I could kickstart that?
In the FAQ, it said something about OGL, so you might fall under Open Gaming License and not have to worry about it either way. I would look at that Open Gaming License before I tried to publish something, right?
Yes.
But a lot of times, like Open Gaming License, I'm more familiar with from 3rd edition D&D, and it was largely like a foot race to come out with content, right? Like because you couldn't copyright it because it was all based out of OGL. So my guess is if you're gonna publish something, I would contact White Wolf first and like make sure nobody else is doing that, or just to like have just to be on good terms. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to like this isn't like a forgiveness later situation. Right, like the community's too small to like ask for forgiveness later instead of permission now.
Right.
So I think like that's one of the issues. But I mean,
and maybe again, you know, I'm not necessarily the most well informed on this topic, but I'm very interested in how, I guess to me, Onyx Path is like a real company, you know, and I just it's confusing to me why they would be doing a Kickstarter. This isn't just like some subsidiary project, right? To be clear, Chicago by Night was like the flagship game city setting for Vampire in the early days and throughout, and just like lore building and NPCs and story overall like canon development, you know?
It was also a very like golden perspective of Chicago, wasn't it? From my limited understanding, it was
and so here's my other gripe is like, I don't know any of the guys behind this or behind Onyx Path, but like how much do they know about Chicago? How, you know, yes, you could say like, well, we're fictionalizing Chicago. Yeah, but like there's a lot of the roots of Chicago that I remember. Even the original Chicago by Night, like they were missing big swaths of what makes Chicago.
Like the whole South Side.
Like, so, I mean, and I'm just saying missed opportunities. Sure. I'm not saying, like, well, I could have done it better. I mean, I could have. I'm going to be honest with you, I could have. But it's more like missed opportunities. I felt like with the Chicago by Night, like, it was like somebody or a group of writers who don't really know this city really well.
Chicago a couple times.
Yeah, like maybe they were,
they know, like, the hooks. And then, that's tough, you know, and it looks like the guy who is kickstarting this, the former director of content, you know, Richard Thomas is out of Pennsylvania. So it's tough. Like, I don't know if he lived in Chicago ever. I don't know if that's why James Ball or Matthew Dawkins are on the project.
Let's see.
But if it's a bunch of people from not Chicago talking about Chicago, it just seems like there are opportunities for more. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But again, this isn't my game of choice. I don't know much about Vampire. I don't play Vampire regularly.
Well, let's close this up by just taking a look at the stats here. So they have 1,000 backers at 63,000 of their pledged 40,000 goal. with 24 days to go. So
right
they're
around $60
they're
a
in
person.
they're in great shape.
Yeah.
Like they've achieved their goal already. This is happening. With a wild amount of comments, 248 comments. Most of them, it looks like
deep lore comments.
Yeah.
Um,
nerds. Just so much like, well,
I mean, I guess the other thing to keep in mind with this book is just like any other content book, like
yeah,
use what you want out of it, right? Like if you want to run a true Chicago vampire game and that's not what this is,
yeah,
like if this doesn't represent what you want out of Chicago, change it, right? Like make alterations. Like this is meant to be a backdrop piece to help guide DMs and story development. That said, like if you're not into the like, I haven't seen the book. Maybe they did a very good job of portraying the city. I don't know.
well, it looks like a really clean, really, really nice book.
Sure.
So $50 is your basic pledge level to get the hard copy. Like
That's pretty typical.
They have lower levels, but I mean, how all these books are
$50,
around
yeah.
that range. So, I guess it's just the thing that people are going to pay for that. They have like a bunch of additional rewards and all that stuff. So, add-ons, additional copies in PDF form, additional print copies, old traditions per PDF bundle. Oh, so you could get like, see, that's what I was talking about. The Chicago Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. Stretch goals. Chicago Folio, the Camarilla Record, Unlocked, the Anarch accounts, old traditions.
Yeah, that's all
bundle.
stuff I don't know what is.
Let the Streets Run Red. The first chronicle set in the throbbing heart and ruined suburbs of Chicago will be added to the Let the Streets Run Red. Backer T-shirts. So basically, they have a bunch of unlocks and stuff like that, which is cool. This is Onyx Path Publishing's 32nd Kickstarter. Well,
That
that answers my question, Brian.
I mean, that might be their business model then.
Yeah.
Like
I'm guessing with 32, that is their business model.
a lot of these companies are 4 guys. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or 4 people.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, so basically, let's dissect that. So my feelings aren't valid because I'm invalidating my own feelings, people, because I mean it's fine. Like this is how they are doing things. Like you said, it's their business model, and it works because there they go, they're funded.
Yeah.
So I have no beef against Onyx Path Publishing, but I was just, I guess,
it is odd that Onyx Path Publishing isn't the one that's like running the Kickstarter, that it's just Richard Thomas.
Right. Maybe maybe he's so old school that it was in a time when Kickstarter required you to be a human and not a company. I don't know. Like back when,
In days of old, when knights were bold and men built great sailing ships.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So that's Chicago by Night. Real quick, Brian. One more
Real quick.
Kickstarter: DCC Annual Dungeon Crawl Classics and other forbidden tomes. At long
Tell me
last-
about Dungeon Crawl Classics.
All right, so
Bill.
Brian, I don't know a lot, but I'm going to tell you what I've gleaned from the interwebs.
Sure.
Okay. For people who like that old school feeling, right? The Dungeon Crawl Classics came out, and it's basically like a stripped down mechanics, kind of simplified, old school Dungeon Crawl Classics. Basically, imagine D&D, okay?
Sure.
But just super simplified, streamlined, straight to the point, adventuring, less about the narrative,
Okay.
and more about dungeon crawling,
Sure.
right? And then they had all these like spin-offs, like Mutant Crawl Classics, where
Oh.
it's more like Gamma World and post-apocalyptic, etc.
So they're putting out a volume, another.
So
Seven.
this, let's watch this video, Dave. Roll it. GaryCon 2016. We were not there. What the hell's going on with this video, Dave? There's some art.
We'll call it a debate between me and Doug for close to 3 years. All these really cool articles that just kind of expand your concept of the world and the game system and so on. It's really cool. The goal is to have the annual come out hopefully by June.
You've heard us talk about the DCC Annual for 4 years now. And if you go by at the booth and look at the other section, you'll see the cover art for the annual. It's actually been done for I don't know, 6 or 9 months now. Anyway, one of these years we're going to get around to releasing the annual. The content's all done. Actually, most of the art is done. It's mostly edited. It's not to be confused with the program guide. The program guide has sort of become actually a really cool thing we do every year at Gen Con. It's like the variety show of all the stuff we've been working on. But the annual actually will come out probably around the end of this year or early next year, and maybe we'll start calling it the Quadra Annual, or whatever the word for that is. But
The most awesome DCC supplement ever, Volume 1.
there you go, Volume 1, that's a good call. But it is coming out and it is separate, and check out the art. Doug's got it at his booth. It's hand-lettered, and it's awesome. So then, the annual, which I like to talk about annually. That's what it's all about. So, I think some of you have seen this cover design. We showed it somewhere before. But believe it or not, it's actually coming along. Most of the content's done. It's edited. We'll be starting layout soon. Next week. Some of the art's coming in.
Because Dave.
All right, so Brian,
Yes.
I don't really want to watch 5 minutes. First of all, let me just make a side note, people. When you make a Kickstarter video, please keep it to like 2 minutes tops. I have no attention span.
And do not that.
Yes, whatever that was, just don't do it. Just cut to the chase, short and sweet, who, what, when, where, why, and how. So, but Brian, as you saw, there was that bit about Into the Borderlands,
Sure.
which is modeled after what? Keep on the Borderlands, right?
Sure.
So Dungeon Crawl Classics. So a lot of these things are basically just redos, and I'm sure if I watched the whole video and read the FAQ, I'd know more about it, but I don't want to. So a lot of these, wow, there's no FAQ? Come on, guys. Goodman Games, you're disappointing me with your Kickstarter. There's 203 comments, though, so all the fans are going to love it. So the first comment that I see is from a fan. When searching Kickstarter for the word dungeon, or even Dungeon Crawl Classics, this project is not listed. In fact, DCC appears 116 times on the description page, but dungeon appears 0. I would include Dungeon Crawl Classics. Yes. Jesus, thank you.
How many Kickstarters have they done?
23.
That's weird. Okay.
No one should be new. And in the description, it's DCC. Like Dungeon Crawl. There's no like limit to the title. All right. So anyway, this is just poor design. But you know what? They tripled their goal already.
Sure.
So Brian,
Who are we? You know?
who am I? Yeah. So here's the thing. This whole Dungeon Crawl Classics thing has exploded. Now, is it nostalgia?
Probably.
For all the old guys who are like, oh, I remember Keep on the Borderlands. I want to run through it.
I think
But-
part of it is like a
but
drive
as a-
to push back to a mechanical game,
Okay.
right?
So here's where I'm getting to. Because I'm an old guy, and I'm like, I have no interest in learning a new system
That's true.
just to play old modules. If I was going to do it, I'd do it I'd like run that game
right.
or that module in a current edition, and I don't do that. So, but like in my gaming weekend thing, for example, Dan Miranda, our DM, ran Castle Amber, and just modified it and updated it,
Sure.
and it was a blast. And I think he did that with what was the published one for like Undermountain? Is that the underground Uber dungeon underwater
Undermountain
deep?
is,
So there's some Undermountain modules from the old days, and he like just adjusted that, and then we played that in 5th edition.
Cool.
So, but I guess there's a lot of people who would rather go and play this system, and maybe it's because Dungeon Crawl Classics is so fun.
I mean, it's
and,
played at cons, so like maybe they're just doing it to like play con games. Like it seems like a lot of people are buying into it just to run it at cons and play at cons.
I guess so, because geez, man, pledged of $20,000 goal, 74,000 with 949
Close to
backers.
1,000 backers, yeah.
But Brian, that's $70 a person. Yeah, about $70 a person. So that just on a price point level, right? Am I thinking that that's crazy much higher than like Vampire or D&D? What's that getting you? Let's see.
Not if it's a whole system, right? For D&D, it's $150 to buy in 100%.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So if it gives you everything for $70, I mean it's half of D&D.
DCC RPG Core Rulebook, print and PDF, that's $40. DCC Annual plus DCC 83. DCC RPG Shanadahaka cover. DCC RPG San Julian cover. The Chain Coffin foil print.
Edition.
Foil edition. $100. Favored retainer bundle deal. Okay.
I mean, my guess is people are in like the higher tiers.
The
Yeah,
setting
so
and
there's
adventure
38
pack.
backers at $300, right? So that covers quite a bit. Is that like the retail package?
This $300 pledge is a $60 savings on the cover price of $360. As a landed lord, you will receive everything offered in the Kickstarter, which is 7 books. 7 books for 30. Yeah, actually, that's a pretty damn good deal,
Yeah,
man.
that's a good price.
$30 a pop, ballpark, less than
Yep.
that. Both covers of the DCC Annual, both covers of DCC 83, the Chain Coffin, and all 3 covers of the DCC RPG Core Rulebook, 7th printing. All books are both in print and PDF. If you like to add on to your pledge, simply add the dollars, and you can tell us what they are for in the Pledge Manager. All right, you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe this is the way to go. Maybe this is for all the people who don't like 5th edition, and they want to go to that.
Right.
But I mean, all sorts of like YouTubers, like Tracy Puckett from Dungeons and Coffee, and DM Scotty was making. He had a craft to make this cover piece. You know, this cool door. Face guy door, stone face door. So all sorts of people are playing this game, and I think, you know, I mean, I guess I'm open to it. I'm trying to understand, like, is it nostalgia, or is it? There's also that thing where like this new generation of gamers who want to get into these
touch
visceral
with the roots of the game.
Yeah, so they're like, wow, Dungeon Crawl Classics. I love old school role playing. It
Which
blows
I
my
mean,
mind.
I would say that that's still nostalgia. It's just like borrowed nostalgia.
Borrowed nostalgia.
Yeah, like,
See, there's that master's degree coming
yeah,
in handy,
there you
buddy.
go.
I can't come up with the phrase, but that's exactly it. It's borrowed nostalgia. The I guess the only thing I could say about this is if Goodman Games wants to send us a copy, I'll play it. We'll get
We'll
a group
review it,
together and we'll play it and we'll stream it and we'll review it. So that's up to you, Goodman Games. It's out there now. Send it. Okay, Brian, we're moving on.
Sent.
Kickstarter has been wildly magical today.
Sure.
But we need to talk about 2 more things. Number
Two more
1,
things.
while we're talking about products, let's talk about Wizards.
Wizards.
And this article,
Yeah.
Brian, that you brought up was about Dungeons & Dragons to release their campaign setting book in 2019.
Sure.
Another book is coming, people.
I mean, they put out 2 to 3 a year, so we could count on another one coming out regardless. My guess is this will take the place of like the rules book, so there won't be like an extra classes and feats book this year,
Well,
or an
yes.
extra races book this year. It'll be the setting instead.
So this came from Nathan Stewart, the Senior Director of Dungeons & Dragons at Avalon Hill. Next year for our annual releases, I can confirm there will be a setting book, he said, a new setting book, a book that we have not created that is for a D&D setting. Now, Ravnica is not a D&D setting, right? It's out of Magic the Gathering.
setting, so
So it can't be Ravnica.
it wouldn't be Ravnica.
It's
it
gotta
might be
be
Eberron,
Maybe
because
Eberron?
that's a play test, I think, right now, and it's like unofficial. It could be Eberron. It could be like, if they're smart, they'll do Dark Sun and get the hardline gamers involved.
Okay,
or
ooh,
Spelljammers.
Ooh, wait a minute. Stewart did not say what campaign setting would be featured in the publication, but he did note that the D&D team did not release setting books every year. In fact, since the release of D&D's 5th edition in 2014, Wizards has only released 2 campaign setting books, Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and the upcoming Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, so it's not those. The D&D team has also had a soft launch of the Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron earlier this year via their DM's Guild website. So, does that mean that this new book in 2019 is not Eberron either?
No, because he's just like, that's just research done based off that comment, right? Like, that's just the article's author saying like, oh, this is what he said. This is stuff that's happened. Like, there's like, a soft launch isn't an official launch.
Okay.
So like,
So this could just be a tease,
it
and
could
it could just
be
be
a tease
Eberron.
for Eberron.
All right. Last
could
thing,
be
you mentioned
Spelljammer,
Spelljammer.
yeah.
Here's the article about in the article. There are a couple of popular settings that D&D fans have wanted for years. D&D fans have noticed an uptick in the amount of content from the Spelljammer setting, a world where players could explore different planets using magically powered ships, while jokingly noting that the upcoming campaign setting book wasn't related to Spelljammer. Stewart even mentioned that Chris Perkins and Mike Merles had even designed rules and playtested how to fly one of the Spelljammer ships. So other possibilities include the post-apocalyptic Dark Sun, or the classic Greyhawk, the Dragonlance setting, or even the ethereal Planescape setting. So
I don't think Planescape works because they've changed
all the things.
They've changed the planes
Yeah.
for 5th edition. So
Yeah.
I don't know that like you're going to do a Planescape setting that's going to be satisfying to people who want a Planescape setting. Greyhawk,
Dragonlance and Dark Sun. Let's take a guess, Brian. All right. Here's what I'd love. I did not play in Dark Sun a lot, but
Sure.
when I did, it was pretty cool. I think it would be cool for them to do that. The nostalgic old man part of me would like to see them do Greyhawk, but I also feel like maybe
the
you know when
problem is
you
there's
shouldn't
not,
mess
like,
with
a
something.
setting behind Greyhawk, right? Like Greyhawk was just the default out of the PHB and DMG in 2nd and 3rd edition. Like these are the deities, and that was basically
Well,
all
I
there
mean,
was to Greyhawk. You know,
No,
other
they
than,
have
dungeon.
they have a setting, but
Do they?
part of me just doesn't feel like they need to do it.
Right.
But and here's the last thing for Dragonlance. What young kids know Dragonlance? I mean, honestly, anybody younger than you probably
I
doesn't
didn't
even
read
know. Right, like Dragonlance was definitely a huge deal
Sure.
in the 80s. Why does it sound like there's an alien right above us?
Or like a large format printer going.
All right.
I don't know.
So, I don't know, Brian. What's your call? What do you think they're going to put out?
I would love to see a Dark Sun.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to sell well. Because I think part of the complaints of 5th edition is too kid friendly. 5th edition is too. It's not gritty enough. A lot of that goes out the window when you pull in a setting like Dark Sun.
Yeah.
And you're going to capture a lot of the older audience that way.
Yes.
I don't think Dragonlance has enough. It doesn't have enough juice behind it. Like, I don't know. I don't follow the Dragonlance novels, but I don't know that one has come out in a long time. Unless they're banking off Joe Manganiello's clothing line and expecting him to put juice behind behind
Dragonlance.
Because all of his T-shirts are based in the Dragonlance setting.
Yeah, and
Like, it's all,
and
like,
the art.
toast and the art. And
Yeah,
everything
and
else.
that art from.
So maybe there's a
Larry Elmore.
partnership there that they're working on, and that will, like, if Dragonlance is the setting, my expectation is there will be more of that rather than less.
Yes.
But I think I would rather see a Dark Sun setting.
I would. I'm going to concur with you in that. I just don't. I don't think there's enough younger folk
Sure.
to support Dragonlance. And,
Or honestly, Greyhawk.
or Greyhawk. Yeah.
You know.
I think the nostalgia picks are
Right.
Dragonlance and Greyhawk. I think there's enough nostalgia also for Dark Sun, but I also think that, like you said, the challenging setting would be enticing to newer players who want something.
Especially
like
in a system where the biggest complaint is it's too hard to die.
that. Right?
I think it's pretty easy to die in a Dark Sun setting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we shall see about that for
Yeah.
2019. We shall see. All right, Brian, GameHole Con.
GameHole Con.
You're going. I'm not.
I'm going for a day, so we'll be there
GameHole Con
Saturday to
in
Sunday.
Madison, Wisconsin. November 8th through 11th. Come to Madison, Wisconsin for GameHole Con 6. Brian,
Yep.
what is GameHole Con all about in your opinion?
I thought it was mostly an Adventures League con, but I was wrong.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's a very large convention
Yeah?
that's filled with many, many games.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of juice behind it from major publishers.
2,227
Yeah.
games and events.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that, like, for instance, right, Wizards of the Coast goes to GameHole Con. They don't necessarily go to GaryCon, right? Like, So that's the kind of situation we're looking at. And my guess is there are other publishers that are in the same boat. We went to GaryCon. There weren't publishers there necessarily.
Yes.
It was mostly like terrain crafters and that kind of stuff in the vendor hall, right?
Right.
My understanding is GameHole Con has a lot more like publishers there. Maybe not a lot. That's a pretty small vendor hall.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. Oh.
Yeah.
It's bigger though. It looks like it's bigger than maybe GaryCon.
Yeah.
For vendor hall.
Not huge though.
No.
So it's still going to be a pretty accessible convention, right?
Right.
It's not going to be overwhelming. You're not going to be buried in people necessarily. Legendary Games, Frog God Games.
They've got a lot of backing.
I mean, it's a popular convention, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the way it goes. But, yeah, so, I mean, I know that Shelly Mazzanoble from Dragon Talk as well as Avalon Games is going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a pretty substantial contingent of Adventures League folks, admin, going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Mercer is going to be there running a game. He auctioned off or raffled off seats at his table. I know that Patrick Rothfuss is going to be there. Tom Kendrick from D&D Beyond.
Steve Jackson of Steve Jackson Games.
Steve Jackson Games. You
and
too
Matt
can
Forbeck,
bury yourself
and
in
Tim
Munchkin
Kask,
Games.
and Todd Kenrick.
Yeah, it's like an all-star. Like there's like a lot of names going to this event.
There's
so Nerdarchy will be there.
Mercer, Merles
and Mercer, yeah. Satine will be there.
Chris
Rudy will be there.
Perkins,
Perky,
Stefan
Perkin.
Percorni, Rothfuss, Rudy.
Yeah. So it's going to be a pretty crowded
Amy
group.
Vorhall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things happening.
A lot of star
there.
power at the event, but
Right.
yeah, we just couldn't make it work to go for the whole weekend. So
Yeah.
I know that we've got friends that are going up. Like Jake's going up Wednesday. I'm going to be there till Sunday, but we just between work schedules and everything else couldn't go till Saturday. So we'll be there Saturday into Sunday, and then head home,
Cool.
but mostly
Cool.
doing networking. But
Well, they have a whole separate page for Adventures
yeah.
League.
Adventures League's big. So
questions.
season 8 is officially launching at GameHole Con. So they'll launch the season 8 Epic. It'll be the first time that's run at it will be at GameHole Con. They run an open Gangs of Waterdeep.
Oh my God. 8-hour event. Wow.
Yeah, and that's like PvP-ish, I want to say. Not PvP necessarily, but like they just throw encounters at you until you die. And then the group that lives the longest, I think, is the one that's the winners. I don't know that for sure, though. You should look up Epics. You should go to this event and go to the Open and see what it's about. Wow. Yeah, but GameHole Con is most notable in my world because it's the reset of seasons for Adventures League.
Yes.
Typically, like that's when the Epics launch for new seasons.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they make a point of saying that is going to be the premiere.
Yeah.
Okay, cool news. Well, Brian, we are approaching the end of the show, but as is our newest tradition after discussing Kickstarters and tabletopics and all sorts of fun, it's time now for Monster
Monday.
Monday. So, Brian, we not the DM's guide.
That's not gonna help much.
I thought usually we randomly pick, Brian.
Sure.
So tell me how many pages are in the Monster Manual.
There are
Today we're going to roll for Monster Monday using O'Malley's dice. Oh, and some other. Let me just
350 pages of
350
monster stat blocks.
Okay, so that means a 4-sider. So that's the hundreds. Go ahead and roll.
3.
Okay, and then percentile. Page 371, rip, doesn't exist. Page 389, rip, doesn't exist.
347.
347. Watch, it'll be like an appendix.
I think it is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
All right, then we'll use a 6-sider.
Yeah, it's like animals.
How about page 318, Brian?
318. That might be better. Not Yanti again.
Yeah, it can't be Yanti again. I can't handle the Yanti again.
It's also an appendix.
Ugh.
It's animals.
All right, page 218, Brian. This experiment has failed me. It's not Brian's fault, people. It's mine. But it's time for
agree.
Monster Monday, and it's time for us to take a look at a monster at random.
Merfolk.
Oh, how convenient for you, Brian. Jerk. All right.
It's actually not. There's not a lot of merfolk.
So what are the basics on Merfolk?
Merfolk are
They're aquatic humanoids.
aquatic humanoids, live underwater.
Are they good or evil?
Neutral. Yeah. As opposed to the Marrow, which look like the evil things.
Okay.
I think the Naga are good. Settlements and undersea caverns, mazes of coral, ruins of sunken cities, communities of spears, hunter-gatherer tribes. Okay.
Okay.
Kingdoms and dynasties. Sure.
Okay.
I think I went first last time.
All right. I'm going to go first.
Okay.
The Merfolk in the harbor outside of the major port city are very xenophobic. They do not interact with the surface dwellers of any race, typically. They have a tentative truce and have had this tentative truce for centuries. People know that they're there. They respect the reefs beyond the harbor. However, recently, some surface dwellers have been mining those reefs after they found very small trace elements of a very rare metal that can be used in alchemy, and have been selling this alchemical component to a guild of mages who have questionable uses for it. And so one brave young merfolk breaks from tradition and reaches out to a group to ask for help, to see if the party will assist his people in stopping this group of questionable miners from corrupting their homeland and from polluting this sacred reef area.
Okay.
And in so doing, maybe is building a bridge between the surface dwellers and these merfolk.
Sure. I think I'm going to play up that that mazes of coral scenario. I think merfolk are guardians of some ancient artifact, and that there are tests involved to acquire said artifacts. And I think they're not necessarily set dressing, but more like a social encounter to figure out the clues to the puzzles, right? So you have to go through this maze. Maybe there's a labyrinth. Maybe there's 3 or 5 puzzle rooms. And, like, you have to talk to these merfolk to understand the clues behind the rooms.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
CR 1/8. Armor class 11. Hit points 11. Speed of 10. Swim speed of 40. Yeah. Spears.
They're not tough.
They're not tough, but they're just like any other, like, kobold or orc or bandit, you know?
Yeah. But when dealing with water things.
Everything's more challenging underwater.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
you're disadvantaged on every roll.
Yeah.
Basically. You got to worry about breath.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a component, is before the party can go explore these coral mazes and these subterranean
You have to deal with
undersea
the breath
caverns.
component.
Yeah, they have to acquire this artifact by doing a favor for the merfolk, and then the merfolk give them the ring of breath, which
ring of
is
water breathing,
whatever, and then they something
Underwater
like
action, whatever it is.
that. Yeah,
Cool.
good. All right, well, we hope that this episode of Rise and Roll has been informative and challenging.
Sure.
And if you feel like we are idiots, or maybe I'm just an idiot, feel free to comment and let us know if there's anything that you need to correct us on, because you probably do, because I just make wild assumptions about everything. So if you're a big fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics or Vampire, and you feel the need to share some kind of important information to illuminate us, we do read the comments. So leave your comments below. And of course, you can always support the channel by subscribing to Initiative Coffee Company's channel
Or
on
find
Twitch.
us on Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon. You can always support any amount counts.
We're idiots. It says it broke.
It broke. Don't fix it. We're
true.
we're idiots. We're like Jim and
Pruitt,
but from Chicago.
From Chicago,
We
and less
eat-
informed.
We eat way more Italian beef.
Well, you
All right.
do.
So, yeah, that's it, Brian. And then, if you're at GameHole Con, go say hi to Brian. He'll be wandering around.
On Saturday, yeah.
Are you going to give out any swag, Brian?
No.
No.
I don't have products.
No,
right
there's
now.
no product right
I've
now.
ordered
But you
stuff
can order your own Initiative Coffee.
at initiativecoffeeco.com/goods and wares.
Yes, there are a lot of options to choose from, and some of those options help people like Brian or organizations and causes like
Anxiety Gaming.
Anxiety Gaming.
Yeah.
So have a great week in gaming, and we'll see you next time on
We're gonna
Rise and Roll.
Roll together.
Hey neighbors, thanks for watching our video. Make sure you check out our other videos here and here. Make sure you subscribe down there and get the notifications from the bell up there. See you next time.